Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. Now, the third installment of CivilNet's Crime Symposium will focus on joyful learning as an antidote to, failing, ailing, and misbehaving among the youth. And the presenter for this one is Camile Swapp, who joins us in studio. She's a child and adolescent development psychologist, but also joining us representing CivilNet via Zoom, Mr. Rodney Pigott is back, the chairman of the Tobago CivilNet. Good morning to you both and welcome to the Now Morning Show.
Good morning, Raucus. Good morning to your listeners and viewers.
Mr. Pigott, you there with us?
And good morning, Raucus, and the listening audience of TTT Worldwide.
Welcome back. Can we get a quick recap as to how last Tuesday went? Because, of course, we've been checking in and making sure that we're up to date on all things CivilNet, especially with these sessions that we're having. So tell us how the last one went.
Very good. And we're actually grateful to TTT for taking the time to bring this and amplify this to the wider audience. Last Tuesday went very well. Dr. Muhammad brought the heat. He brought the bitter medicine that the society needs, right? If you go to certain weddings, rituals in Africa and so forth, they give the couple small cups to taste from, and this simulates life experiences. So they'll taste from something sour, something hot like pepper, something bitter, something sweet. Well, last week we got the bitter, right? And that's what our society needs to hear. We heard about the school to prison pipeline system that we must pay attention to as society, where our schools itself are beginning to simulate prison conditions, gated, bars on windows, children going through doors and they're pat down, bags are checked. I don't know if they have the body scanners yet. They have that in the United States already in the inner cities where mostly Black and brown people go to school. They have the scanners where they scan for weapons and things of that nature. They're literally preparing them for a prison life. And so he spoke to that. He also spoke to our society's failure to properly socialize our children through the cultural rituals that we once had in place, that we no longer have in place, where we're no longer looking out for each other as the village raise the children type of environment. And he also spoke very, very adamantly about the responsibility of the government to put some of the finances into these areas like the Beetham and here in Tobago, or Bethel and places like that, pour some money into those places to sort of bring them to life and bring them up so that a lot of these places don't look so run down and dilapidated, which can also cause the self-esteem of the people and the youth in that area to also feel rejected and dejected, which can lead to a life of crime. So it was a well-brought session by Dr. Muhammad.
All right. So thank you very much for that recap. And we're getting ready for somebody sweet, I think, from those different cups that you're tasting, because we're getting ready for the third installment, as I mentioned, joyful learning. And Camille, tell me what joyful learning is all about, because that seems like an oxymoron to me.
Wow, as Caribbean territories. So I'm Jamaican and I've been living in Trinidad and Tobago for, I would say, 10 years unbroken and then another 7 years. And I'm here now, right? So joy is what we do in the Caribbean. Joy is what people in other countries, just our weather, our music, our art, how we are, our comedy on the streets, our ability to laugh at ourselves.
Yeah, peacock, everything.
Yeah, and it differs just slightly. There's a slight variation. My concern, though, is that our education system, by the very word, is supposed to be as dynamic. But we have the old British model that we're struggling with. We're really struggling now. We're going up the hill, and the car is very old. And that's the commonality between Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. I dare say other island territories. We hear Prime Minister Mia Mottley speaking about what she's going to do. And I'm not saying that they're not hard people working out there in the education system, but I'm liking what Tobago CivilNet is doing, along with Eastern Credit Union, to put forth very firmly the public health approach, because it's through that public health approach that every system, so you'll hear what Dr. David Mohammed had to say, what Quincy Jones, who lived that experience in his youth, and now helping other youth. So that public health approach brings to the society all aspects that affects human development. Joyful learning is we are born excited to learn. It's
born
part,
curious.
You're born curious.
Yeah.
And for young people, teenagers, and I'm going to stick on teens right now because the topic is so vast.
Yeah.
Teenagers are excited to learn, want to learn. And it's a stage where teachers and people who studied and they say they studied in the principles of education, no, it's a state of you feeling industrious or inferiority. Joyful learning is a way of life. And in all the literature internationally for teens, for people in general, I want joyful learning for school staff, for parents, for youth. They should like school. But adults will lead that charge for our young people.
Right.
And we will look at those structures. There's now neuroscientific findings on boys, on girls. On boys, there's nothing wrong with boys. Boys can learn as girls. But the science is showing that some of the tools you need for academic comes in a little later for boys because his big muscles, his testosterone keeps him moving, not because he's badly behaved. Other countries have adjusted to the neuroscience information, but we're stuck with the good school, bad school. We're stuck with the Form 3 choices. You're asking children to choose and lose subjects at 14 years old when the science shows really about 20-something in your second year of university. If you go to university, that's where you're thinking career.
Yeah.
So you should just be exploring, but you should not be specializing in subjects. Joyful learning, when I do that presentation next week, Tuesday the 26th, from 6 to 8 p.m., I'm going to show the proof. It's not what Camile Swapp has to say. It's not my personal opinion. It's the very process of education using the science. They said science gives you options and knowledge gives you action. So if we are saying, and we're very passionate about education, we must keep the passion. But it has to be reasonable, and it has to be a language that children understand.
But tell me something. Is this even possible with the way the system is set up now? Do we need a systemic overhaul?
We're going to need some overhaul. Some of what we have is good, and we have to know what's good. And then we have to change what's not in line with human development. But at the same time, joy can happen now, right now. It's how we speak to young people. The science shows that children learn predominantly through their feelings. When we get older, if you think I'm silly, I'm not making any sense, it doesn't really affect me. It doesn't affect my heart. It don't affect my lungs. But here's this, you know what they say in literature about children? You think you're teaching just the brain. No. You're teaching the spleen, the heart, the lungs, everything in that child. And we can test it. Developmental psychology is that combination of psychology, education, and the human. So we're looking more at what affects the human totally, not just the family. For teenagers, they're more influenced. They're influenced by their parents, but they're more influenced at their stage outside by the adults in school and their peers.
By society
and media. So that's where the school system under the public health approach, why I want it, I heard our Prime Minister speak about it, but I didn't see anything happening. The old British school system is nobody's fault. It's our fault now if the entire populace will not brainstorm how we can make it better. But the joy of learning is what sustains us to be that intelligent person to solve our problems in our communities. And children's emotions run high. Let's check Form 3 choices. Most children at Form 3, they choose the subject based on the teacher they like.
Most
you have boys, they weren't doing well in Spanish, and a pretty Spanish teacher, and they sign up I'm just saying. I
mean, but that's a part of joyful learning when you think about it.
But this is it. But we capture that brain that says we choose. It's parents and teachers will say, no, you need to choose for career. So, but we have to speak in the language that children understand. And then teenagers want justice. Okay? Now, let me say this. We like to point to a group, and this group is not doing well, but my group is doing well. Listen, in Jamaica, 90% of us black. So the discussion now is not a black person did this. Okay? It's oh, I moved from poor and I got educated. What's your problem? I come to Trinidad now and it's different groupings. But let me say this. All youth are at risk. All you are at risk because the literature shows international too for even single race countries that when education is not aligned to your human development, then rich kids and middle class, working class children, they tend to harm themselves. But children who are already in a minus because they didn't have enough funds, their parents were sick or whatever, sometimes they're not bad parents, they're sick parents, they're not there. They now harm other people. That's what the international research, so we can look back at ourselves. In Joyful Learning, what I'm going to try and do is show you how the brain works, the body works for teenagers, and then we dream that social emotional intelligence is also included for the teacher. The teacher needs to like the working environment.
I feel like you're going down a whole different conversation there altogether because yes, I agree with you 100%, but I feel I want to stick a pin in it and save some for Tuesday when people come to the session. Mr. Pigott, before we wrap up, can you just quickly tell us how we can be a part of this session and tell us a brief, well, we'll chat a bit more about the final session next week, but tell me how we can be a part of this session for Joyful Learning.
All right. Very simply, go to the Facebook page of Tobago CivilNet, and there you will find the link to the Zoom where you can register and come into the Zoom and be a part of the Zoom environment, or you can simply go to our Facebook page on that day and at that time and simply sit back and tune in. And you can put your comments there, your questions there, and so forth. To be engaged by Miss Camile Swapp. So those are your ways in which you can engage the program on Tuesday, 6 to 8 p.m.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mr. Pigott. Yet again, we look forward to hearing the wrap-up from this one and then getting ready for the final installment as well. So take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
And thank you, and TTT.
No problem. Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Pigott.
Let me also say thank you to you, Camile Swapp, for joining us this morning, for sharing so much information, which I know is just a snippet of what is to come on Tuesday. So we look forward to that conversation with Tobago CivilNet, and we're definitely going to tune in. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem at all. Enjoy the rest of your day. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a quick break, and we come back with more on the Now Morning Show. Your birthday should be up next, so stay tuned. Hold on, look at up yet.